Baker, in her book entitled In Other Words, A Course Book on Translation 3rd edition, discusses the issues and strategies of translating fixed expressions and idioms. Baker stated that idioms are frozen patterns of language that allow little or no variation in form, and often carry meanings which cannot be deducted from their individual components. And translators are likely to face difficulties due to cultural reason and have no direct equivalence in the target language. In order to address this, Baker constructed four main strategies. Those are using idioms of similar meaning and similar form, using idioms of similar meaning but dissimilar form, translation by paraphrasing, and translation by omission. The choice of strategy usage is dependent on context, cultural familiarity, and the importance of the idiom to the tone or message of the source text. Baker emphasizes the importance of prioritizing meaning and communicative effect over literal form in idiom translation. And here are the explanation about four strategies in translating idioms by Mona Baker, and including the example of real-world applications in certain conversations or in literary works.
So the first strategies in translating idioms by Mona Baker is to use an idiom of similar meaning and similar form. It is when the source language is translated to target language by finding an equivalent idiomatic expressions that not only have similar meaning but also similar in lexical item. For example, with an open arms, translated to dengan tangan terbuka. Both idioms above refer to welcome or to accept something warmly, sincerely, without hesitation. Both idioms also share an equivalent lexical units in terms of form, as we can see that with an open arms and dengan tangan terbuka are prepositional phrases. Another example is when there's a will, there's a way, translated to dengan ada kemauan, di situ ada jalan. Both of these idioms mean that if someone is determined to something or has strong willpower, they will find a solution or a way to achieve something no matter how difficult the situation is. The lexical items will or kemauan and way or jalan are also semantically equivalent. The second one is using an idioms of similar meaning but dissimilar in form. The strategy of translating idioms is finding idioms which still have similar meaning but do not share equivalent lexical items. For example, menjilat lidah sendiri, translated to each one word. Both idioms refer to the act of retracting or contradicting something one has previously said, especially when proven wrong. While they share a similar meaning, they have different key lexical items. One uses physical image of licking, while the other one uses eating. And other example is jatuh cinta setengah mati, translated to head over heels in love. Both idioms describe the feeling of being completely, deeply in love, to the point of being overwhelmed or consumed by it. Jatuh cinta setengah mati uses falling and half dead as metaphors to convey extreme emotional intensity, with death symbolizing the overwhelming and consuming nature of love, while head over heels implies a state of convulsion or dizziness due to the emotion, and therefore their lexical items are different.
The strategy number 3 is translation by paraphrasing. So, this strategy is used when there is no equivalent of matched idioms in the target language. It also can be used when it is unnatural to use the idiomatic language in source text in the target text. So, this is mainly because there are differences in stylistic preference of source and target language. It also means to use non-idiomatic language in target language to explain the meaning of the idiom rather than finding the equivalent translation. For example, you get the point. The source text is in English and then translated into kamu paham. The target text is in Indonesia. So, the idiom get the point means when understanding certain information in a form of written or being said. There is no equivalent meaning when the idiom get the point translated with literal translation. That's why in the target text, the idiom gets simply translated as paham. That can still convey the information in source text even though it is not in a form of idiom. The second example is "She is the apple of my eye." The source text is in English and then translated into "Dia adalah kesayanganku," where the target text is in Indonesia. So, the idiom "apple of my eye" in source text means a cherished person or someone very precious to another, and there is no equivalent idiom to get translated in target text, and then it's simply translated as "kesayanganku." That has the same meaning as the idiom in source text.
Translation by omission strategy is used when the idiom from source language has no equivalent meaning in the target language, or the meaning of the idiom is hard to explain in target language. Besides, the translator can also use this strategy for stylistic reasons to make the translation sounds better. This strategy is simply removes the idioms if it cannot be translated effectively. For instance, the idiom "It's raining cats and dogs" translated into "hujan lebat." In this case, the idiom has been omitted, and the meaning only "hujan lebat" or "it's raining heavily." It is because the idiom "It's raining cats and dogs" doesn't make sense to Indonesian speakers, as it is a cultural expression from English. By omitting the idioms, the translation will be clear and natural for the target audience. Another example is "noisy bloody women" translated into "para wanita berisik." In this case, it omitted the word bloody from the source text and changed it into para, because even though it's absent, the meaning is still clear and understandable for the audience.
So, for overall conclusion, Mona Baker first strategies in translating idioms over a framework of how an idiom from source text get translated into target text. Each strategy shows how the idiom context and function are involved in the translation process, so the result will be natural and appropriate enough in the target language. Mona Baker translation strategies emphasize the faithfulness in the source text and then the acceptability in the target text, indirectly stated that idiom is not just a part of linguistic unit but also a cultural representation by the way each culture has their own stylistic elements. And then we finally reach the end. Before that, here are the list of references being used for the explanation of translating idioms using Mona Baker translation strategies theory. Also, if you want to read more about translation strategies, you can scan the barcode here. Thank you for watching and see you on next time. Bye!